we're looking at ways in which we can get the U3A running, smoothly, even more smoothly, even better. And one of the bottlenecks that's happened sometimes is when you come in, you can find yourself at the end of a sort of long queue, and you could be out in the cold. So we're looking at having 2 lists at the time that you come. One will have a list of those who've already paid, so you can then go and you can tick off your name off a list as you come in. A separate queue for those who haven't paid, got cash. Hopefully you've got cash, and you're going to pay, and that'll be a different queue. So we're looking at how we can actually arrange that. We haven't actually quite worked out the logistics, but that's a work in progress, and we may or may not have it working next week, but at the very least we'll have it working for the next series, which I think is your one, Loretta. Right. The second thing we're looking at is the morning tea. At the moment we have the people from REAP, they bring across all the stuff, I set it out, and that's great. Get the stuff, the water hot, etc. We're going to provide a little bit more elbow grease into the process, and already we're pouring the tea and coffee, but at the end of the session we also need to wash up. So we'll, at some stage, not necessarily today, we'll be looking for volunteers who would be willing to just help 5 minutes, 10 minutes at the end of the 12 o'clock or whenever we finish, just to help tidy up, and it's nothing much more than that. Now, another question, name tags. We've got the boxes of name tags. I never even remember to put mine on, and I can't actually see any here at all. So can I say that name tags are... Oh, none, you've got yours on. Really they're a bit of we can perhaps dispense with them unless you think we should hold on to them. Let me know anyway, give it some thought. The last thing I want to do is encourage your use of online registration for these REAP sessions. It's very easy, it's a great website. You simply go to coreap.org.nz and you set up your account. I mean, it's all very straightforward, just you get a login, and then when it comes to registering for U3A series, you just tick the boxes, or with the little mouse click the things, and it all happens, and you provide your credit card number. It's absolutely painless. You'd never see any cash going out. If you've got a computer at home but you don't know how to do it, right next door here are the very, very people that you need to instruct you on how to do it. So you go to REAP, say, please, I want to know how to register for the U3A sessions. Okay, so keep those things in mind. And Loretta, you got a question?
You can just reply to the email.
Yes, that's right. So it's the email has the link, so you can just click on that, as Loretta says, and then register.
They send me the email and I reply and say, yes, I'll be coming to the session.
Yeah, but you can actually go to the next step, which paying and everything. Right, no, don't. I won't say don't listen to Loretta. I'm just streamlining in the process, Loretta. Thank you. So see how you get on with that. Anyone who feels uneasy, they've got a computer at home, but they don't know how to do it, go across, ask REAP. We're just trying to get U3A to function more smoothly and with costing less in terms of the time for the REAP staff. Because if we have the staff, there were 2 staff out in the foyer this morning, and that's money. It costs money to have them there. So if we can actually streamline all of these processes, it'll be much better. So I hope you see the benefit of that. Thank you very much. Thanks, Lee.
Okay. So it was lovely talking with some of you in the break room, and nice to see some familiar faces from my home area. That's always really quite nice to see. But I've left one part of this sort of tool now because I know it always generates lots and lots of questions, and that is the financial side of going into aged residential care. Just to let you know, is it Loretta? Had a wee look through what I call the Bible of aged residential care, and so for community care, if it is personal care that people need, that is fully funded by the ministry. However, things like housework will be means tested, so just to let you know that. So I've learned that today for sure as well, which is great, so thank you for that. So talking about the financial side of things, so once you are assessed to come into aged residential care, you then have to start to navigate, and it is a minefield, I'm not going to lie, of the financial side of going into care. Going into care in New Zealand is at a cost to people if their assets are above a certain level. That changes every single year. The level changes every single year. The contribution that homes get from the government changes every single year. The daily rate changes every single year. So those things all change around about July the 1st every year. And what tends to happen is what you can have in assets goes up. However, the daily rate also goes up. So that is what tends to happen. Now, this is something that is set by the government. So none of the homes have any say around the asset levels or the daily rate. The only thing that homes might have in addition is things like premium rooms. So for example, at Rānui, we have 3 premium rooms. So there are 3 rooms that have an additional cost associated to them, and it is not covered by the government subsidy. Okay, so for us at Rānui, 2 of those rooms are an additional $19.40 a day, and they both have their very own ensuite, and they are quite big. Well, they're all quite big rooms actually at Rānui, but they're slightly bigger rooms. And another one, which I think off the top of my head is $13.40. I haven't looked at that room cost for a wee while. It is a extremely big room. So those are the only 3 we have at premium room costs. However, what's really important to know, and I will get into all the figures for asset levels and stuff in a minute, but what you really need to know is that if you were to be coming into Rānui and I said to you, the only room I've got is a premium room, and you said to me, and it's hospital level, and you said to me, well, I don't want to be in a premium room and I do not want to be paying you another $20 a day, thank you very much, then what has to happen is it's what they bring into play, what they call the 10-kilometre rule. So if there is no other hospital level bed within 10 kilometres of Rānui, which there won't be because we are the only hospital level place here, then we legally have to let you have that premium room for as long as we don't have a standard room available. Okay, so that's really important to know. Don't ever get caught out if you are, and I'm sure my head office would probably scone me for saying this, but don't ever get caught out thinking that if there's only a premium room available, that that is your only option. Okay, it's really important to know that. So if it was a rest home level bed someone was wanting in Rānui and the only room I had was a premium room, but Castlewood had a room available, then we are able to say, I'm sorry, you will have to go to Castlewood if there's a room there, because it's within, 49 seconds drive, because I've driven it so often. So that doesn't, the 10-kilometre rule doesn't work for there, but that's really important to know. it's an experience I had in Invercargill when we were putting my nana into care, because the Ryman's down there, most of the rooms are at premium room costs, the majority of them, and it was only because I knew what the rules were that I was able to say, well, hang on a minute, yeah. So just make sure, just be aware of that rule, and it does talk about that in this book as well. So the asset levels for aged residential care, bearing in mind that this will change, and I don't think they have got it at the moment on this document, no. So at the moment, if you are single, you are able to have assets equal to or below $256,554. Okay, so that was as of July last year. That's what you are able to have in assets. So what is an asset? So an asset includes your cash or savings. It includes any term deposits you may have, investments, shares or bonds. It includes any loans you have made to others. So if you have loaned someone money, that is included in your assets. It includes your property, and it includes most life insurance or most policies around life insurance. Okay. What it doesn't include is your household furniture and TVs and all that sort of stuff. Most personal belongings, like your clothing and your jewellery, are not included. It doesn't include a prepaid funeral fund of up to $10,000. And some trusts. So the rules, and I'm sorry, you'd probably be best to get someone legal in to talk about the trust side of things, but the rules have changed around trusts somewhat in the last wee while. So trusts are a bit of a tricky...
We did have a lawyer last week speaking on trust.
Oh, great. Yep, so...
How about gifts that you give away to people? Are the limits, if you've given gifts away, is it some rule about 5 years or something if you're giving gifts away?
Yes, so he was just asking about gifts and what about gift giving and the rules around that. Yes, they do start to look into things like that now, because they see that as a way for people to get their assets down is by giving, I guess, significant gifts. So they're not going to look at if you've given your child, I don't know, a piece of jewellery or something like that, but if it's significant gifts, so if you've perhaps given them a gift of a significant amount of money to get into a home, that is something they probably would look into. Yeah. I think it's around about 5. So art collection, if it's of a really high value, it could potentially be included in your assets. So that's where it's a real minefield, and it's really complex, because you will be given by the needs assessment or the social workers down at the hospital, they'll send you a form to fill out, and it looks at, it's quite a large form, and any of you have been through the process of having someone come in to get care, you'll be aware, and there's a lot of that has to be completed. So that looks at what you might have in separate bank accounts, so you have to allow for every single bank account you have. It looks at anything you might have in term deposits. It looks at the value of your home. It looks at if you have a trust, the age of the trust, all this sorts of stuff comes into play. So it is a bit of a minefield to work through, but it's important to be aware of what sort of things they do look at now. Yeah.
So I'm confused about life insurance. How can life insurance be counted if you're not dead?
like honestly, like I say that because to be absolutely honest, I don't completely understand the way they do some of the things they do either. But I'm guessing it is because like a house, once your house is sold, you get a sum of money. So it would be the same for when someone passes away. They get a sum, well, they don't, their families do. But some of the insurance policies that are out there too also have that. They have those clauses where you can, don't think AS does, but where you can like cash out, or you're able to get some of what you've put in out. So yeah, but it is, those sorts of things are a minefield. But yeah, it does say that most life insurance policies are included. What we find though, however, in all honesty, is that most people no longer have life insurance once they are needing to come into care. So in fact, I don't think I've come across many at all that still have life insurance policies in play because it costs so much to pay into them. So that is if you're single. If you are a couple in long-term care, so both people in long-term care, which definitely does happen, you're able to have your combined assets are exactly the same as what they are as if you're single. So it is the 256,554. And then if you're a couple and one of your loved one of the couple need to go into care, you are able to have combined assets of 140,495.
But you're allowed to keep the same.
You can keep in your house is not included, so the value of your house is not included if it's your loved one going into care. Okay. Your vehicle's not included, no. So really that is when you're looking at someone else going into care within your relationship, that is about almost the cash, the money side of things that you've got there in play. We encourage people to really keep an eye on the levels of those assets. The other thing we also say, and hopefully there's no one from the ministry here, is that if you are supporting someone into care and they are single, is to make sure that they've got all the things in their room that are going to make it as homely as possible. So if that means getting them a nice new electric chair, then that's what you should do, because as those assets come down, obviously your ability to get a subsidy gets closer. Yeah. So it's really, we do say to people that if there's things that people want, they shouldn't, because you can only go to a certain level. So yeah. The cost of being in care at the moment is $176 a day, I think is the figure as of today. So, and I know for most people that sounds like a lot of money, but actually the things that we do have to cover when people come into care is we are covering the pay of every person that works in the building. So that's not just the carers and the nurses, it's also the housekeeping staff, our maintenance man, without him we'd be in so much trouble, our admin staff, our kitchen staff, our laundry staff, so it covers a lot, activity staff. We also pay, of course, power, which is getting horrendous. We're paying all the food costs. So when you look at all the people, the $170 odd, to be honest, doesn't fully cover the cost of running a home. But I know for individuals, when that's coming out of your own pocket, that it feels like and is a horrendous amount of money, especially if you're paying privately.
But you do surrender your national super, don't you, for the person who's going in?
good question. Yes, I imagine you would. Oh, yes, sorry, your superannuation, yes it is. So you get, if you are subsidised, so if you're not subsidised, you still get your super. If you are subsidised, so if the government is putting in the money for your care, then you do lose your super, but you get, at the moment, I actually brought that bit of paper with me because I can never remember the figure, you get $52.89 a week for your personal spending. Yeah.
Sorry, can I just clarify again? If you are not subsidised, in other words, if you're above that lowest level, you still get your superannuation?
You still get your superannuation because the government is not paying for your care.
That's if you're private.
That's if you're private. Yes. So that was just a bit of discussion about how if you still own your own home and you're were you saying she's private paying? Yeah. So it's just talking about how the process works around the funding, and she was just saying that her loved one is still pretty much her leftover pension is going to the Gore District Council to pay for rates and stuff like that. And that's certainly, it is an issue, and look, I'm not here to say whether I agree with how they do the funding or not. I do have some strong views about it, but that would be for another discussion. But it is a really stressful, that is probably one of the most stressful parts about people needing to go into aged residential care, is the financial side of things. I do know they used to put caveats on people's homes, which meant if they were sold, a percentage of the sale goes back to the government to pay for the care. So, and that's the kind of thing they do when perhaps someone might have a child that is living in a home with them, so rather than them having to be kicked out, so to speak, and the home sold, they put a caveat on the home, which just means that a portion of the sale price of their home goes to the government, essentially.
What would be the average length of time that someone would be in residential care?
Oh God.
People staying home longer, but
Yep. So that has changed quite a lot. So recently we lost one of our beautiful residents, and she had been with us for over 9 years. We've got someone in there that's been there 10 years. But in general, it's been, in the last wee while, probably the average is more around 6 months to a year. Yeah. So it has changed quite a lot in the last wee while. But then in saying that, at Ranui and at Castlewood, there are a number of people. So when I say that, I'm talking about the more newer people that have come in, because we've got a number of people that have been there for more than 3 years. Yeah. So yeah, it does vary. We've had times where someone's come into us and literally passed away the next day. So and part of that is about the fact that the hospital do not want people staying in hospital. So they want people out of hospital. They push for them to come through to us, and it might be actually that person possibly should have just stayed in the hospital and had the support there in their last couple of days. So, yeah, but the length of time in care has definitely shortened. The reality is that care used to be very much that people had that choice and they would go, you know what, I think I might go into a rest home now, and they'd still have their cars parked at the rest home, still go about and do their usual stuff, but they just had that additional support for the things they needed support in. Aged care's not really about that anymore. I've got one resident among the 2 homes that have their own vehicle parked at Castlewood. Everybody else is not driving, and if they are, it's their wee mobility scooter, and even that is becoming less and less common. Yeah. So when you work out all the financial side of things and you apply for your subsidy, that all takes quite a lot of time. Most homes, and certainly Presbyterian Support Otago, we generally just, you might get an account, but we kind of just leave things for 3 months. So we give people 3 months to sort out that financial side of things, because it is such a pressure that it just means it's a little less of a pressure if you've got a bit of time to sort all that sort of thing out. And then after 3 months is kind of when we start saying, hey, what's going on? How's things going? Is there anything we can do to support you with this? So that's generally what happens, and I believe most homes do exactly the same thing. There's some people that it's really clear, it's very obvious to you that you will not meet the criteria for a subsidy, and you come, and I've got quite a few people on my waiting list that have already said to me, yep, no, I'll be private paying, I already know that's how it's going to be. So some of it is about, I guess, getting an understanding early what you have got and what you haven't got, and having it in your head where you might be going, and just keeping an eye on that sort of thing. And I know for a lot of people, you know, and I hear this so often, they say, you know, I've worked for all of this for my family, and that is, I think, one of the things that is the most devastating for people, is that most people have worked so hard all of their life, and what they've got through hard work and perseverance, and we all have that dream of when we go, what we've got will go to our families, our children, our grandchildren. None of us want to be giving it to the government or to pay for aged residential care, and that is the reality. But if you think that going into aged care is possibly something that will end up happening for you, then I'd encourage you to have a think about what you do have, and whether you're comfortable with paying for aged residential care or not, because the reality is that it does feel like at times, and I do hear this a lot, that it feels like people that have perhaps done really well with savings, or have owned a couple of homes, or have worked really hard, and that's not saying people that are subsidised haven't worked really hard, because my nana was subsidised and she worked extremely hard all of her life. But it does sometimes feel like it's a bit of a discriminatory process, and I get that feedback all the time from people. But it is something that any of the aged care managers will tell you, we have no control, no control whatsoever around that sort of thing, apart from feeding back to the government our feelings towards it.
Should there be another tax thing that people could pay into for the aged care? That might be another solution to that.
So like a KiwiSaver type thing, but for going into aged care.
Yes.
Oh,
And a lump sum is in there, and if it's not necessary, then it's still able to go to the family.
that actually sounds like quite a good idea. I suggest you go right to the ministry and tell them that's a good idea. Yeah.
When you talk about the waiting list, are you talking about a waiting list for rest home care, or are you talking about
I've got waiting lists for everything. Yeah. So just to be really clear though, we call them waiting lists, but they do not work like a waiting list. So it's not first in, first served. And the reason for that is that we have to look at people's individual situation for rest home and hospital level care. The villages, it is what tends to happen is we send, so I don't control, so to speak, who comes into the villages at all. I'm the manager there, but a lot of the work's done by, for us, Andrew Borthwick, who is in Dunedin. So when people come to see me about going into a unit, we take all their details, we might show them round one of the units if one's vacant, or if one of the lovely residents are happy to have someone shown through. And then we send that information to Andrew. When a unit becomes available, Andrew gets in touch with people, and that is often, and then it almost goes into like a buying a house type process if there's more than one person. Yeah. So it can be quite stressful for people, because of course sometimes there's people that already have the funds sitting there and they're ready to go, and there might be people that have to sell a home or break assets out of different term deposits or something like that. So it's actually, yeah, so if you come and put your name down for the unit, I do keep a copy of everyone, but we send that information through to Andrew and he deals with that. But for the hospital and rest home and dementia unit, I manage all of that. So there's lots of things we look at when it comes to people coming into care. We have to look at the mix that we have in the home, particularly in the dementia unit, because we are a very small dementia unit. So if we've got several people that can be quite disruptive through no fault of their own, but that's just part of their journey, it can become a very, very unsettled little unit. So we have to look at the mix that comes into the home as well. Also, because a lot of our rooms are shared ensuite, we need to consider gender of people. So the majority of our rooms are shared ensuite. Some people don't mind at all because there's locks obviously on the doors. But for some people, if they're female, they don't want to be sharing a bathroom with a male, or vice versa. So we have to look at the mix of the room we've got available. And we try our best not to shift people about, because it is their home and the rooms they're in, they've usually got looking pretty special because it is their home. So there's lots of things that come into it, and also safety. So if someone is at home in the community and their safety is at risk, they will take priority over anybody else on our waiting list, because we've got to make sure that they are safe. Yeah.
So how does that work practically? Do you sometimes have rooms free then? Do you keep like one room free at all times? How does it work?
No. So the other thing that's really lacking here in Central Otago is respite rooms. Really, really lacking. So I have asked that when we extend Ranui, we look at having a hospital level respite room, and I would love to have a dementia level respite room as well. At Castlewood, however, there is a room down there that I was not happy to have as a permanent room. In my opinion, it's too small. Does meet the criteria, but I feel it's too small. So that room we have made a respite room. So we do now have a respite room available at rest home level care, which is great. Yeah, and so what happens is essentially someone vacates a room through whichever way they vacate the room, and we tend to give people, I'm not into the having people move in as soon as people move out, because every time someone leaves us, it affects the staff. We adore our residents. We love each and every one of them. So every time we lose one, we just need a little bit of time as well to adjust to that person not being part of our Ranui or Castlewood family anymore. So I tend to make sure that that room just remains as it is until at least after someone's funeral, when the family can come in and grab their loved one's property and that sort of thing. And then what tends to happen is we pop on Outernet, we've got a vacancy, and we contact the needs assessors. But usually I have contact all the time with people in the community, and so I have an idea of who's in really high need in the community, and I'll contact those people and say, hey look, we have got a room available. And sometimes they'll say, well actually they've ended up in Golden View and they're quite happy there, so you can take them off the list. And it's like, yep, good as gold, glad to hear things have worked out. Or they'll say, yep, we are desperate, when can we move in? So it generally is it's not difficult to get the room fill again. Yeah. Rest home level's probably where we have the longest gaps of rooms being vacant. Hospital level, I pretty much never have a room vacant for a long period of time. Yeah. The cost of the units, yep. So the costs of the units, it varies. It goes, well, it doesn't fully go on market costs, but the market drives a little bit what the units cost. The last unit that was sold was one of the older ones, and it was for under 400,000. Yeah. So, yeah, and it varies. And then you also have a weekly cost that is paid to Presbyterian Support when you live in the unit, and I can't remember exactly what that cost is. $120-ish a week. Yeah, between 120 to 130 a week, and that covers the rates, that covers the maintenance man. So the people that live in the unit have access to our maintenance man, Tony. They all know him very, very well. That covers the maintenance of the property, including every 6 months the outside windows are cleaned. It covers insurance of the house, not the contents insurance, so insurance of the property. So that covers quite...
And that goes up each year, does it?
Yes, well, it tends to go up each year. Generally will go up with everything else that goes up. Yeah. Presbyterian Support feel it really, really important that the units remain affordable, because, it's not equitable if the units are only available to people that are very, very wealthy. So that's why the cost tends to sort of be under the 400,000 at the moment, because we do know the cost of property's gone up horrendously in Central Otago in the last wee while. But yeah, so it is around about that 400,000, just under mark. We haven't sold one of the new ones for quite a long time, so I'm not sure what they would go for now.
So is that, do you own the unit, or is it a right to occupy?
Yeah, so the way it works is you purchase the unit, and a percentage of that unit, when you no longer live in it, when you sell it, comes back to Presbyterian Support Otago. So it goes in 5% increments, I believe, and it goes up as high as 20%, 5, 10, 15, 20, it might be to even 25%. So I think it's over 5 years, so the highest it goes is 25% of the sale price comes back to the home, or not to the home, to the organisation.
You only own the right
to occupy. Yeah.
And when it sells in the future,
Mhm.
the family don't get any
Anything back? Yes, absolutely they do. So 25% of the maximum is, so it's 5% increments over 5 years.
Do they get the market value of what it sells for? Do they get that? Do they get
So whatever it sells for, they'll get the 75% or the 80%, or just depending on how long the person's occupied.
some places you only get back what you paid for it?
No.
You get the market gain if it is.
Yeah. 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 So that question was just around, do you get back the market or what it sells for, or is it like you only get back what you put in? No, it's not you only get back what you put in. And certainly for some people in the units in recent years, we've had some people that have lived in those units for many, many, many years. And so, of course, the value for them of the property had gone up majorly. So, yes, they definitely got back.
It's a big difference from a lot of other.
So the really important thing to remember, and now look, what happens for Presbyterian Support Otago, it will be completely different to what goes on with the big corporate organisations. So Presbyterian Otago, we're not here to make money. We're a not-for-profit organisation, and that includes our units in our village. So anything that is a profit goes directly back in to the units or to the homes. So that's why, whereas the corporate, so I'm talking Ryman's, Oceania, Somerset, those homes, they are there to make a profit. They've got shareholders that they're having to pay money to. But the other important thing to understand, and this is something that is really misunderstood in the community, is that the villages are actually completely separate to the aged residential care home. So aged residential care is very much governed by the government. They decide what we get as a daily rate. They decide what the daily rate is. They decide what funding goes into the homes. It is all done by the government. The villages are they're audited and stuff, we're audited, but the way they are run is more set by the organisation that's running them. So they're actually two separate entities, because you often hear when this debate's been going on about funding into aged residential care, a lot of what I read is, these people are so greedy and they take all this money. The money that people get to run aged residential care from the government is just for aged residential care. It's not to go into your villages. Does that make sense? So it is actually two separate entities, which is actually why some of the big corporate agencies are going out of having aged residential care homes, because it's now costing them money to have aged residential homes. Which is scary, but it is the truth, and so that's why I'd encourage you to lobby your government to make sure that aged residential care is appropriately funded, because we do depend on that is how we run our homes. It's not through lots of premium rooms and lots of villages and stuff like that. So it is quite a separate funding stream, and that is the sad truth now, is that certainly some of the bigger providers, Ryman's and stuff, have voiced that they are going to move away from having aged residential care homes because of the cost, the money they're having to top up aged residential with from their villages. Yeah. What criteria does the Cromwell one fit in? So they are privately owned. They are owned by, I think, a corporate entity, but not like one of the big ones. I have a lot of respect for Juliet and the Cromwell home. They're a pretty special bunch of people, and I certainly, when we don't have rooms, I do say, have you tried Golden View? So I believe they are corporate owned, but not by the big corporations. Yeah.
And do you know if their selling thing is like also?
I don't. Sorry, that's something Juliet and I have never discussed. Yeah. Yeah. But Juliet would definitely give you that information. So if you're interested in the Cromwell area, just give Juliet a call and I'm sure she would let you know how that all works. So that's the thing. I can give you the information for aged residential care, the homes, because we are pretty much all the same. I can't tell you what people's premium room rates are, but certainly from what you have to pay if you're privately paying, that is the same for everywhere. The thing that's different is the premium room rates. But when it comes to the villages, it will be completely different amongst all the different providers. Yeah.
Just looking at the time.
Yeah. Has anybody got any more questions? Yes, they do. Yep, they do now. Yeah. But it's run quite separately. Yeah. Whereas Ranui and Castlewood, we've kind of decided to think of Castlewood as another wing of Ranui because we're so close. But I think they're run quite differently, Ripponburn and Golden View. Yeah.
Is it true that the Ranui is building onto that vacant section over the road from Castlewood?
No, so that vacant section over the road from Castlewood, that question was just about are we building on next door to Castlewood? That's going to be the new medical centre. Yeah, so Health Central will be going into there, but the plan in the future, once we've got somewhere for the residents at Castlewood to go, because we're not about to kick anyone out, so once we've got Ranui extended, the plan will be to build on the Castlewood site some more units. Please don't hesitate to pop in and see me. I'll leave some of my cards here. If there's any questions, anything I can help you with, please don't hesitate to come in. And there's also some Ranui and Castlewood brochures here.
Right. Just on behalf of everyone.
Thank you.
On behalf of everybody here, I'd just like to thank you so much for your time, particularly stepping in and speaking on behalf of Juliet as well. I'm sure you can tell by all the questions once again that people have a lot of interest in this, and there's probably still more questions that you would like to ask, but it's certainly clarified a lot of things for me. So once again, thank you so much for your time, and thank you everybody for coming. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll just leave sitting up here a copy of the residential report because it's just got some of the monetary figures on there that we get from the Ministry of Social Development, so it might just be of interest if anyone wants to have a wee look at it.